you're getting by with LSR.
Work is done for the day, so now we are here for you.
Decompress, celebrate, and pat yourself on the back.
Our radio station can be your post-work treat.
This is Leeds Student Radio, filling your eardrums with what matters.
Listen live on thisislsr.com.
Or tell your smart speaker, play Leeds Student Radio.
Hello, and we're live. Welcome back to Poetry Generator. This is sadly our last episode of the year. Well, actually, it's our last episode ever.
Yeah.
Because we will be returning to radio, but in a different capacity with a new show, which we will explain at the end of this show. Before we get started, we have to thank everybody who's been listening to us for these months and who voted for us for the Student Radio Awards. The ceremony was last week, and we are very happy to announce that we won Best Show.
Wow. We got an award for Best Show. We weren't the very best show.
We got
second.
There was two. They gave two awards that were both titled Best Show to two of the shows. There's 30 shows in total, so I was quite pleased with that.
Oh yeah, it's a good achievement.
It is. There's different types of shows. There's podcasts and there's music shows and stuff, but we were outstanding in our field, suffice to say. Yeah. I'm Thomas.
I'm Leo.
I'm Dominik.
And Henry and Orla are away. Henry is at a concert in Glasgow. He's
playing, yeah.
He is. He's the drummer of a band. Orla is studying for her exams, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which
is a shame. What she really should be doing, if she cared about her future, is studying obscure Renaissance poetry.
That's right.
Yeah. Not that what we have in store today is by any means obscure. We're going to be talking about two Renaissance writers, English writers, one of whom everybody and their dog knows, William Shakespeare, and the other is Edmund Spenser, who's I think pretty well known as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so.
If you don't different league,
well, sure, but he's fairly well known, and for good reason, because he's very influential and he's very innovative and talented, as we will soon see. I think it's very fitting to do Renaissance because interestingly, we started off with the ancients, Virgil, Ovid, Homer. And then we went to sort of the beatniks. That was sort of...
Well, that was actually before we did them first, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, right, we did.
Yeah, we started with Kerouac.
We did.
Kasky.
That's a good point. And so that was 50s, 60s America.
Yep.
And then we went back and, we did the Romantics, so late 1700s, early 1800s. Various Victorian writers, various American writers of the 19th century, Emily Dickinson, Whitman, and those that like.
Yeah.
And then we went on to do modernists.
Yeah.
Which brought us to the movement and some more mid-century 20th writers like Philip Larkin. And now it feels like there's one gap to fill. Well, I suppose you could say there's two gaps to fill in, which would be medieval and Renaissance.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're not going to be doing medieval. I would love to do Chaucer. That would be...
Yeah.
And Beowulf. That would have been great. But we're not doing that. We're going to do Renaissance. So, perhaps I can begin by introducing...
Go ahead.
The character of Edmund Spenser. He was born... Well, this is an interesting thing about when you begin researching this era of history and this era of literature. Is the little details that enrich a person's biography become less certain and in many cases forgotten. We don't actually know exactly when he was born, but it was probably 1552. And we do know that his family lived in, what's the neighborhood in London? Spitalfield? Spitalfield?
That sounds right.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Dominik? Spitalfield, is that it?
No, I don't know.
No.
It sounds like a place.
Isn't that?
It's familiar.
I believe it's a neighborhood near City of London.
Yeah, that would make sense. I don't know for sure.
Which is to say near the bridge. No, well, regardless, he grew up in London, some neighborhood at least, to a merchant family, but the family must have been a wealthy merchant family because he went on to study at Cambridge, where he befriended the writer Gabriel Harvey, who some of you may know. He's not so much a creative writer as much as a scholar at the time. He was very much a Renaissance man, not unlike Spenser himself, and that he annotated and provided commentary on Virgil and Ovid and Horace and all of those characters. Spenser despite being supposedly from a merchant middle-class family, seems to have had a lot of connections, because after graduating from Cambridge, he went on to work as a secretary for the Bishop of Rochester.
Okay.
That was his first serious job. And it was around that time, in 1579, that he published his first work of poetry, which was called The Shepherd's Calendar. Reminds me a little bit of the medieval English poetry. Well, actually, it's not poetry. It's quite so much as theater. But you know the Townsley plays and the Second Shepherd's play from Master Wakefield. That was a famous medieval English poet, and they have some strange connections.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting. But The Shepherd's Calendar, his first major work, and in fact all of his subsequent works, are also heavily influenced by Virgil.
Yeah.
Stylistically, and in some ways, the Shepherd's Calendar is actually kind of like a Renaissance English retextualization or rewriting of Virgil's Aeneid, which is interesting. And it's very grand in its scope. And that's the trend you see with Spenser throughout his career. Everything he does is pretty grand. He writes epics. He doesn't really tend to, at least from what I discovered, he didn't seem to have any collections of smaller poems, which is quite unlike Shakespeare's poetry work, as we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, after publishing this work, and after sort of establishing a name for himself in the world of Elizabethan poetry, and working as the secretary for the Bishop of Rochester, he engaged in military service. He went to Ireland, where he participated in the Siege of Smerwick, or as it's known in Ireland, the Massacre of Smerwick. Which it was essentially as part of the Counter-Reformation. So, let's see, Pope, I guess it's Gregory the 12th or 11th. No, sorry, Pope Gregory the 12th. In the late 1500s, he was the one that sent various Italian and Spanish troops to Ireland to fight the Protestants that were stationed to the north of the island, planters that were remnant of King John II's campaign, right? And they want to expand southwards, and then the Catholics, with the support of the papacy, with Spanish and Italian troops positioned to the south of the island, wanted to push northwards, and there was a clash in the middle. It resulted in Anglican or English victory. Spenser himself was, of course, an Anglican. And afterwards, he settled in the north, actually, of Ireland as a planter himself, and he seems to have remained there for most of his life. Although it looks like he visited London regularly, but he seems to have lived in Northern Ireland thereafter. He married twice. First to a woman named Maccabeus Child, whom he had 2 children with. And then later, after Maccabeus' death, he married a woman named Elizabeth Boyle. Not to be confused with the American romance novelist, Elizabeth Boyle. He published The Faerie Queen in 1590 at the age of 37. It consists of 6 books. 3 were published initially, then 3 others shortly before his death. Some people claim the book is unfinished and that he had more books to write, but regardless, we have 6 complete ones. They span 3,848 stanzas, or roughly 35,000 lines, which translates roughly to about 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 pages.
Yeah.
So it's a very long poem. In fact, I think it might be the longest poem that I know of, personally, unless you maybe Pound's Cantos come close.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've read, it's considered one of the longest in the English language.
Is it?
I mean, I don't know if it's got the title of number 1, but
yeah,
it's up there. It's challenging.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very accessible for all of its length and for the date that it was written. It's really just like a fairy tale in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's very fun. It's very accessible. Simple language in some ways, but beautiful language. Sometimes it's dated. Well, oftentimes it's dated, but you can struggle through it probably more easily than the average person could struggle through Shakespeare play.
Yeah,
I would say.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not too It's not too difficult. It's not too, and it's written in something called Spenserian stanza, which I'm assuming that he
made,
must have. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm assuming that comes from him. But that's basically, it's kind of it's kind of just like a variation of iambic pentameter. Basically you have like 8 lines of iambic pentameter, and then you have 1 line of iambic hexameter.
Okay.
Or hexameter. So it kind of just add the little at the end. So iambic pentameter, for those who don't know, is it's 10 syllables basically. So, and you have like the stress on every second one.
Yeah.
So it's like da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum. That was 10, right?
Think so.
Yeah. And then like iambic hexameter is, you just do it a 12th. You do da dum.
Yeah.
11, 12. So so stylistically it's very tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, it doesn't necessarily it's not he's not experimental necessarily.
Do you know if it deviates from that form at any point, or is
Not
it?
I didn't read the whole thing. It's 1200
it's
pages,
a few,
but based on what I know, it doesn't.
that's
It sticks to this
Yeah.
form, and it's just his way of telling the story, and it's very controlled. Suffice to say, and he tells the story of various knights' quests. So you have let's see, you have 6 knights. So the first knight is the Knight of Red Cross, the Red Cross Knight, and his virtue is holiness. And then in book 2 we get Sir Guillaume, and his virtue is temperance. And then in book 3 you get Sir Bridemart, and his virtue is chastity, which unfortunately, not very lucky for that bloke, right? And then you get then actually in book 4 you get multiple knights, Sir Campbell, and Sir Triamond, and several others as well, and their virtue fittingly is friendship. That's the one I'd want to be in that one if I had to choose.
Yeah.
And then you get in book 5 Sir Ardengale, his virtue is justice, and in book 6 Sir Calidore, and his virtue is courtesy.
Yeah.
So you might be wondering, who's the fairy queen? Where does the queen come into play here? Well, that's a very good question, Leo. The fairy queen is referred to as Gloriana, and she is a thinly concealed version of Queen Elizabeth I herself.
Okay.
Which is very interesting. So the poem combines Christian imagery and Christian morality, and with an allegory, with classical mythology.
Yeah.
Because of course he was heavily influenced by Virgil, and you can easily see how it already is going to incorporate a lot of tropes that we see in medieval romance, and medieval adventure stories. But this all comes together to serve as political praise, really, for Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah. I think I read something about it being possibly brought to her by Sir Walter Raleigh, and then she kind of was involved in the patronage of the work. Although, like, it's not clear whether she read it or not, but she was involved in essentially commissioning it.
That's interesting. That is interesting, because if you think of the history of epic poems that have that serve as political allegory, they often are actually state sponsored. But Virgil's Aeneid is I don't know, whatever that would have been.
Yeah,
Let's look it up.
But I mean, if we look at the same time as Spenser, almost I don't know about all, but a lot of Shakespeare's works, particularly the plays, are purely made to curry favour from influential people, and specifically later in his career.
Yeah.
The king.
Yeah.
So
that is very interesting. Okay, so here apparently it was Augustus.
Okay.
Octavian, that funded Virgil. There's a book called The Death of Virgil. Have you ever heard of it?
No,
very good.
I think you might have mentioned it.
Yeah, it's
actually.
very good. It's about the last week of Virgil's life, and he's in the palace
Yes.
of
Yeah,
Augustus, and he's sort of dying, and then he's, the Aeneid is left unfinished or something like that. But,
I think we spoke about this when we covered it.
oh yeah, probably
Yeah.
months ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Edmund Spenser's this Fairy Queen was not too unlike that. There was some royal patronage, which in a sense is also a very Renaissance thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you go back to the Italian Renaissance, that's a major theme. The
definitely.
Medicis and whatnot. Do you think that exists anymore? Like
Nowhere near to the same degree.
patronage of the arts. there's like the British Council for the Arts and the Canadian Council for the Arts, but I don't know, like
They don't have anywhere near the same power.
they don't
It's
have
not like
power, and also like the emphasis with both of those institutions is that they're just not meritocratic enough. They're just handing out money for anybody who wants to do bullshit.
Yeah,
It's not like
it's and it's a very different thing because I think from what I read as well, Queen Elizabeth gave Spenser a pension for the rest of his life of about £50 a month, which
that's interesting.
is a lot at that time.
Yeah. Do you know? I'm trying. I see. I'm not so good at remembering names, but I remember the. But I remember the historical incidents. What I was going to say is, whoever happened to be king at the time that Spinoza was living in the Netherlands, he was quite a fan of his work, and he was like, I don't want you to have to work as a watch and glasses maker. So I'm going to fund your philosophical career. And Spinoza was like, we would send back the money, and he was like, no, sorry, I don't want.
Yeah,
Which is quite bizarre because Spinoza was notably very controversial and kind of seen as being against conservative culture.
Yeah.
And kind of religiously a bit of a heretic.
Yeah,
It's
well,
quite strange that
in a way he was.
The king of, you said, the Netherlands.
Yes.
Would have wanted to fund him.
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, the Dutch have always been heathens in a way, haven't they? Do you want to know what's the different, what stories, before I go into reading it, do you want to know what the different knights do in their respective books?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so I'm bringing this up from I'm reading this from a book, so so this is not my own words, but this is a little summary that some scholar has provided. So in book 1, we see a couple interesting scenes play out. Una, who's a woman, separated from the Red Cross Knight, wanders alone and vulnerable into a forest. A fierce lion approaches her, and instead of attacking her, it is tamed by her purity and becomes her protector. The lion then follows her like a loyal guardian. Red Cross encounters a speaking tree, which tells him a tragic story. The tree was once a knight himself, named Fradublio. Fradublio, when he was a human, loved a woman named Frasilla, but was deceived by the false and seductive Dusa. Through Dusa's magic, Frasilla was transformed into a tree, and later, our poor knight, Frabdulio, was transformed as well.
It's very whimsical.
It's very
so
whimsical.
far,
This is just the little narratives that we get in book 1.
Yeah.
So you can
I'm sure it's
imagine
gonna
you can imagine how fun it gets if you read it. Okay, this is more from book 1. So Red Cross, the knight Red Cross is led by Dusa. We've been warned of her, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
To the splendid house of Pride, ruled by Lucifera. That's an ominous name, isn't it?
Thinly veiled. reference there.
Everything looks magnificent, but the foundations are rotten. Lucifera rides in a grand procession with 6 other deadly sins. Each is grotesquely personified. Okay. Well, we don't know what happens to... The guy who wrote this critical commentary in the introduction did not provide whatever happened to Sir Red Cross, but I do hope that he made it out of Dusa's lair.
Well, it'd be weird if he didn't, because isn't the aim of the book to kind of suggest how morality should be viewed, how to create virtuous people.
That's a very good point. The knights their virtuous knights always win. Oh, am I holding your headphone? I'm holding your headphone cable. Sorry. The virtuous knights always win.
Surely.
So this, but you would think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like there's one from book 3 here. Let's read this one. Malbecco is an old, jealous husband married to the young Helenor. When the knight Paradel and Britomart. Oh, this is the one about friendship, right?
Oh, okay.
One night, Paradel and Britomart visit. Paradel seduces Helenor and runs away with her. Malbecco pursues them, loses his wealth, his wife, and eventually his human identity, becoming an embodiment of jealousy. Damn, that's bad luck. Britomart, a warrior maiden, sees the image of Artegale in a magic mirror and falls in love with him before even meeting him. Her nurse, Glaus, these are real names, by the way. Her nurse, Glaus, tries to cure her love sickness, but eventually Britomart arms herself and sets out to find him. Britomart and the others come to the Garden of Adonius, a mysterious place associated with generation, fertility, and the cycles of life. Souls and forms seem to pass through it in a great natural process of birth, death, and renewal. Okay. Well, there's again, the scholar has not provided a conclusion of the narrative, but you could see that there's a lot of what we might call surrealist imagery.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't use that word even. It's just mythological, isn't it?
Yeah. It is very simply just a fairy tale, but in poetic form.
But it's, I mean, just even that, like, where was it here? A mysterious place associated with generation, fertility, and the cycles of life. Souls and forms seem to pass through it in a great process of birth, death, and renewal. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
He must have been a very creative person to envision all this.
Yeah, but again, it seems inspired by the Greek and Roman mythology.
Oh, yeah.
It seems very Styx-like.
That's a good point.
But it blending your influences into something new is, equally as impressive as making something entirely new, I think.
Yes, I agree with that very much. Okay, well, I'm going to read some stuff from book 1.
All right.
Which is our listeners will know now is who?
Oh my god.
Red Cross.
Oh,
Knight Red Cross.
About to get there.
So the subtitle here is The Legend of the Knight of Red Cross, or His Holiness.
Okay.
Lo, I the man whose muse Wilhelm did mask, as time her taught in lowly shepherd's weeds, and now enforced a far unfittered task, for trumpets stirring to change mine oiten reeds, and sing of knights and ladies' gentle deeds, whose praise, having slept in silence long, me all too mean the massacred muses reads, to blazon broad, ernst her learned throne, fierce warns and faithful love shall memorize my song. Help then, O holy Virgin, chief of 9, thy weaker novice to perform thy will. Lay forth out of thine everlasting scrine the antique rolls which there line hidden still of fairy knights and fairest Tanakill, whom the most noble Britain prince so long sought through the world and suffered so much ill, that I rue his undeserving wrong. O help thou my weak wit and sharpen my dull tongue, and thou must drept impt of highest Jove, fair Venus' song, that will thy cruel dart at thy good knight so cunningly didst rove, that glorious fire it kindled in his heart. Lay now thy deadly Heben bow apart, and with thy mother middle come to my aid, I think. Come both, and with you bring triumphant mart, and love and gentle jollities aride, after his murderous spoils and bloody rage allied. And with them eke, O goddess heavenly bright, mirror of grace, majesty divine, great lady of the greatest isle, whose light, like Phoebus' lamp, throughout the world doth shine, shed thy fairy beams into my feeble e'en, and raise my thoughts too humble and too vile, to think of all that glorious type of thine, the argument of mine afflicted style, to which Oh, sorry. The witch to hear, Vashaf, O dearest dread, a while. You know what? I would be very interested in hearing what this sounds like in the original pronunciation.
Yeah.
Should we have a listen?
We should. But it's also remarkably accessible.
It is accessible.
I know you said that, but
It is. You know what? It's 500 years ago, but if you just took the time to translate, like, okay, so earlier I mentioned the Townsley plays by Master Wakefield. So that's about 150 years before this, right?
Yeah.
And Geoffrey Hill, the famous poet from the University of Leeds, who's obviously passed away now, but he translated it into modern English. And when you read it that way, you're like, wow, this is actually a really great, interesting, accessible story. And so I mean, this is a bit of a cop-out because I am an English student, but I would greatly enjoy reading a modernized version of The Fairy Queen.
Yeah. Do you know if there is
I wouldn't admit that to a professor because they would say, read the original.
Yeah.
But
it's the same as, neither of us have a fluent level of French. And so I think reading poems in both languages is really useful.
Non, je peux pas le français fluentement.
Not on air.
Pas vraiment. Pas en R, on ne peut pas parler français en R? No?
No.
Okay, d'accord.
All
right, well, here I have a video of what this would have sounded like in, what would you call it, Elizabethan vernacular. So let's listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can maybe understand more of it. If I position my microphone.
From the Fiery Queen by Edmund Spenser. The patron of true holiness, full error doth defeat. Hypocrisy him to entrap.
Wait a second. I'm not seeing the microphone light on.
There's a little bit of it.
Okay.
But you might need to just pull it a bit closer.
What if I do this?
Yeah, that should work.
From the Fiery Queen by Edmund Spenser. The patron of true holiness, full error doth defeat. Hypocrisy him to entrap, doth to his home entreat. A gentle knecht was pricking on the plain, clad in mighty arms and silver shield, wherein all dints of deep wounds did remain, the cruel marks of many a bloody field. Yet arms till that time did he never wield. His angry steed did shade his foaming bit, as much disdaining to the curb to yield. Full jolly knight he see.
That's quite strange. A knight approaches with tattered armor, but he's never been to war before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What could that mean? Should we listen on a little bit?
Yeah, a bit.
Let's do it.
And fire did sit, as on for knightly jousts and fairs encounters fit. And on his breast a bloody cross he bore, a dear remembrance of his dying lord, for whose sweet sack that glorious badge he wore, and dead as living ever him adored. Upon his shield the leg was also scored, for sovereign hope, which in his help he had. Right faithful true he was in deed and word, but of his chair did seem too solemn sad. Yet nothing did he dread, but ever was he dread. Upon a great adventure he was
We're getting a lot of paradoxes here.
Yeah.
We're building a complex character.
bond, that greatest Gloriana to him gave, that greatest glorious queen of fiery Lund, to win him worship and her grace to have, which of all earthly things he most did crave. And ever as he rode his heart did earn to prove his puissance in battle brave, upon his foe and his new force to learn, upon his foe a dragon honorable and stern.
So, that's a bit of a cliffhanger to leave it on,
Yeah.
where a dragon approaches. But
It's very interesting in multiple ways. I mean, there was one of the final lines there. It had something about his puissance dead.
Yeah,
And
puissance.
it's literally a French word.
Yeah.
It's interesting that almost all of it was intelligible, I thought.
I know. It probably helps just like knowing a little bit of French and German, which,
Yeah.
which we do,
What's his
but
puissance for the folks at home?
Power.
Power.
puissance. But you know what's interesting? If you read so I've seen photos of the original text,
Yeah.
and they write it with an F,
Okay.
but the F is pronounced S,
Yeah.
as if it was,
Yeah.
as if it wasn't tedious enough, right?
I've really liked the horses in that. Gave it. A
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
dramatic
No,
feel.
this is a very nice production,
Yeah,
and
it
this
was.
person who's made this reads the entire canto of book 1. So
Okay.
I don't know how many cantos are in each book, but the video is 20 minutes long.
Yeah, so that's got to be quite a small section, even of the first.
Yeah. Here, let me look at the structure just before, and then I'll pass it off to you guys, and we can discuss
All right.
more Renaissance English poetry. Okay, so XII is 12, right? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 12 cantos, 12 chapters in each book.
All right.
So yeah, so
So you could guess what 12 times 6.
well, if I think of the total number of stanzas being 3,800, then we could do some math here, but I don't know if there's much point in that. But suffice to say, it's a very long, never-ending story.
Yeah, I think
quite
from what I
different.
can tell, it'd be about 1,400 minutes to read the whole thing.
More than that, really?
Aloud, if it's all the same length as that canto.
Interesting. That would take what a way
It'd
to
be
fill.
a while.
You could fill a weekend with that, couldn't you?
Quite a lot more.
Quite a lot. But you're talking like 3 days. I'm just taking the piss. I'm just joking.
Yeah, slightly more.
Slightly more. All right. A drive from Brighton to Inverness.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what was interesting to me when we chose, so we, as I've already mentioned, we chose Shakespeare and Spenser, but Spenser is like such a grand maximalist who writes epics. And Shakespeare, there's a lot of Shakespeare plays that have 8 parts, 10 parts. Actually, there's some plays that have 10 parts. Like Shakespeare did write like big plays and big epic with many characters.
Yeah.
He also wrote minimalist plays, but his sonnets, his poetry, is quite minimalist, isn't it?
Yeah.
So perhaps you can enlighten us.
Yeah. I don't know if there's loads of point going into his life itself. We'll give a brief bit of context. He's born in 1564. The date isn't exactly known, but scholars usually say it's the 23rd of April, which means it's both St. George's Day and the day he died on, which makes a nicer story.
That seems way too convenient to be true.
It probably is. And he's born in Stratford-upon-Avon. He marries young at 18. Anne Hathaway, a 26-year-old woman, and they have 3 children together. One of whom, Hamnet, one of the twins, dies at 11. And so, even, quite early on in his life, there's some trouble, but his trouble is mainly personal. His work always seems to go pretty well. He moves to London. I can't remember exactly what year, but around the end of the 1580s, and begins in theatre. He's
It's funny. It's about the exact same time that Spenser would have left for
Yeah.
Ireland.
yeah,
Funny.
it is. They might have very briefly crossed paths.
You think they had a pint together?
But yeah, he begins as part of a theatre troupe, and then kind of slowly works his way up to becoming a very renowned playwright. At first, his name isn't on all of the plays, but by around 1592, he's known, and playwright Robert Greene, who was also very successful, attacks him in a publication quite early on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wasn't a fan. I think it was his contention was that Shakespeare wasn't educated enough.
That's interesting because what we always hear is Shakespeare was like everybody loved him and he was commercially and artistically successful and everything went well. It was success, success, success.
Yeah.
That's the story we hear, right?
I mean, he never really had failures in terms of his work, or at least when he was writing plays. But yeah, to begin with, it seems like the establishment within theatre at the time didn't like him.
And is this critique, is this where the phrase upstart crow
It is.
to describe him comes from?
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah,
so I have a theory.
Yeah.
And I want to run this by you and see if you agree. I think you can break Shakespeare. I kind of borrowed this from a professor that I'm friends with,
fair enough.
but I adjusted it.
Okay.
Okay, so this theory is that you can break Shakespeare's oeuvre into 3 different parts. The first part is comedies, very camp, very like whimsical and fun. And then the second era is like extremely dark and violent and really morose and macabre.
Yeah.
And then the third era is like kind of there's like a more like peace and like maturity and kind of like a wistful kind of existential vibe, like it's like for example in The Tempest.
Yeah.
But in a more you've come to peace with your mortality and with existence in life.
Yeah. I think probably the plays that are being critiqued by Green are the early comedies mainly.
Okay.
Probably I think the print that was published in was around was 1592. And so he hasn't made too many of his dramatic violent plays yet.
Okay. Yeah, they get really dark. I mean, they're like, like I saw an adaptation of, what was it? Macbeth? Yeah, it was Macbeth. I saw an adaptation of Macbeth, 2022, I think, maybe 2023, and I wish I could remember the director's name, but he didn't even have to do that much to turn it into like a psychological thriller horror film.
Yeah,
it's a very dark.
I saw
Othello and Hamlet are both very dark too.
Oh yeah, incredibly.
Mm.
I think the worst production of any play I've ever seen was one of Macbeth. They butchered it.
Yeah.
Oh, it was traumatic actually.
Do you have a favorite Shakespeare play?
I mean, Macbeth is the only one I know very well. I know my mum loves King Lear.
Oh really?
But I've never read it or seen any productions of it. I think I remember always liking Henry V. I don't think I read it in full, but we had like shortened children's versions of them. So when I was little, and I remember really enjoying that one.
Do you remember Falstaff? Sir Falstaff?
No.
Oh my god, he's such a funny character. So he's like a cowardly knight.
Okay.
He's in that play. He's in a couple of plays, but his thing is like what's like the ship captain from Futurama? No, you guys are too young. You didn't watch Futurama. Okay, never mind. Okay, Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter.
Okay, yeah.
He's like he's like a worm. He's like very pathetic and
but outwardly trying.
He's like very briefly. He briefly puts on a facade that he's like courageous, but then like the mask slips, and he's like, you got me. Yeah, like I'm actually extremely cowardly. And then he like goes on to embrace his cowardice, and in doing so, he kind of like inadvertently exposes the hollowness of a lot of the aristocratic values that the play is supposedly espousing, like loyalty to your king is kind of arbitrary because he's just a man. He's not actually divinely chosen, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like hard to discern what Shakespeare actually believes here, because he has one character who is maybe people of the time thought was shameful, but there's almost a genius in Shakespeare where he's saying like, I know that at some point in time people are going to read this and they're going to realize that this character is saying something that's more sensible than everybody else in the current era deems him to be. So yeah. Anyways, we're kind of getting off the point now.
Yeah. I think we'll switch back onto his poetry.
Sure.
I think he begins with some longer, more narrative-driven poems. The first one being Venus and Adonis, which I think it's quite early on. It's 1593. It's both written and published, and it's very, very influenced by the Metamorphoses by Ovid.
Oh yeah.
And it's about Venus, a Roman goddess, trying to seduce Adonis, a mortal, and essentially it's trying to show the paradoxes of love, and the ending suggests that the reason love can be so harsh is because these two characters doomed it forevermore, essentially.
Okay.
And it's quite a long narrative poem. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly how long it is, but
Do you want to read some stanzas?
I actually don't have
Well, that's
a
fine.
version of
That's
this.
fine. Whatever you
we'll
planned on
we'll
reading
focus on his sonnets in terms of the readings,
Sure,
but yeah, it is important to note that he makes some longer, more not epic, but more narrative-based
Yeah,
poems
yeah.
than the sonnets.
Okay. Time for the
Yeah.
giving the narrative time to develop.
Yeah, exactly, and having more of a mythological basis, having more of a
Yeah. Well, that's
probably more of a moral, like
didactical.
yeah,
Really interesting.
Well, I mean, that being said, a lot of the sonnets are kind of didactical.
yeah, they're just shorter form.
They're just shorter. They
Yeah.
kind of tend to make a point explicitly, so to speak. Whereas
Definitely.
obviously, something like we use Venus and Adonis, you said.
Yes.
Venus and Adonis, it makes a point through, narrative, and then
Yeah.
you extract, a morality from the narrative. whereas-
Allegory.
Allegory, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then a lot of the sonnets are just a kind of a point is essentially stated outright, very literally.
I know.
Even if it has poetic flair or a bit of narrative,
Yeah.
what Shakespeare means is what he says.
I think this
It's what he addresses to the
would be a pretty good time if
the
you
fair
wanted to
youth.
read the sonnet that you have.
yes. Oh, you have the
Yeah.
look
Do you
at
want to? Yeah. Was it sonnet 100?
100.
Leo was handing a
Yes.
book that we stole from a building,
Yes.
from a library.
We'll give it back.
We're gonna give it back.
so
There's a lot of buildings on campus that have books that nobody uses, so
Yeah. Yeah.
you're allowed to take them.
Yeah.
So-
As long as you eventually give them back.
If you
or
eventually
if no one notices.
You eventually
Yeah.
give them back.
30 years later.
so this might be a bit dubious, so you can correct me, but it's generally believed that the 126 first sonnets are all kind of addressed to the same, maybe not the same character, but the same general, the fair youth,
yes.
who is presumably male.
It seems like it, yeah.
Presumably male, which here is quite interesting because 100, which I'm going to read, and
Shakespeare's
101
Catamite.
Well, that's kind of what seems to be. Well, not explicitly. But
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
there's
But there
there's
are
a great deal
theories
of
about it.
romance and
Yeah.
kind of outpouring of passion.
It's just he's just a
Yeah.
father figure for this little boy. It's not. You don't need to make it.
Okay. Well,
All right.
Sure.
We'll get into the reading.
All right.
there are modern scholars who would like to purport,
Well,
the
go-
queer Shakespeare stuff. Anyway, there's so here 100 and 101 are both addressed to muses, and okay.
Yes, Dominic. Can you
Sorry.
Go on. Read it.
I mean, I was going to do a bit more preamble.
Okay.
But-
I mean, a
well,
little bit if you've got
okay.
some.
Basically, these are both addressed to muses. Well, actually, no, I can read it and then I can do the.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So-
that works.
This is 100. Where art thou, muse, that thou forgetst so long to speak of that which gives thee all thy might? Spent'st thou thy fury on some worthless song, darkening thy power to lend base subjects light? Return, forgetful muse, and straight redeem, in gentle numbers time so idly spent. Sing to the ear that doth thy lays esteem, and give thy pen both skill and argument. Rise, resty muse, my love's sweet face survey, if time have any wrinkle graven there, if any be a satire to decay, and make time's spoils despised everywhere. Give my love fame faster, then time wastes life, so thou preventst his scythe and crooked knife. And I thought it was quite a kind of it's not as forceful of an ending as I was kind of expecting.
Yeah,
I don't know if you would agree or not.
feels quite gentle. I mean, there's some of them I'm going to read 2 sonnets later that some people think because the first out of them has such an ending that doesn't sound as final, that they're supposed to be read together. And so, do you think the 101st one has the same themes, carries on the narrative, or do you think they are separate despite being addressed to the same?
I think they're separate. They are obviously addressed to the same muse, but I think I'll talk about what this one means. Generally, it's interpreted to mean that the muse is kind of could be Shakespeare's own genius, which he has which he like turns into this muse character, and he kind of asks for them to come back to him, kind of like a bit of a writer's block thing, and it's an expression of that. Which a lot of people think that's quite on the nose. It's like, oh, would like a genius like Shakespeare do such a trite thing as writing about his own writer's block? Maybe you people wouldn't want to believe that because it's so obvious. I think it's quite compelling. And the interesting thing that I was going to mention was that muses are naturally female, at least as characters, and obviously the lyrical muse, I forget, Euperti, is that? I don't know. Anyway, the muse of lyrical poetry and of music could be presumably who would be being addressed here. But as I said earlier, the whole first 126 are addressed to a male, so it's interesting.
Yes,
the gender of who's being addressed here.
Could it be his dead son?
It could. I honestly had not considered that.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few theories about it, but essentially, like all of his life, no one really knows.
Yeah, sure.
So everything about him is up for debate. There's a lot that gets fantastical, and just hard to believe.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean, what's it called? My Dark Lady. The sonnets that he has addressed to his dark lady, who were like, oh, he had a African lover.
Yeah,
he was in love with a Moorish woman, which seems like extremely unlikely. Like,
yeah,
but who knows? I don't know.
I mean, it's one of those things that you could make a claim about a lot of these things by reading his works, but it doesn't really have any concrete evidence about his life, and there isn't much concrete evidence about his life, his personal life at least. We know about his work, but not much at all about who he was.
Yeah.
I think we may as well read another one. The ones I'm going to read 2 are sonnets 64 and 65. Just got to find them in the book. Here we go. When I have seen by time's fell hand defaced the rich proud cost of outworn buried age, which sometime lofty towers I see down raised, and brass eternal slave to mortal rage. When I have seen the hungry ocean gain advantage on the kingdom of the shore, and the firm soil win of the watery main, increasing store with loss and loss with store. When I have seen such interchange of state, or state itself confounded to decay, ruin hath taught me thus to ruminate, that time will come and take my love away. This thought is as a death which cannot choose but weep to have that which it fears to lose. Since brass nor stone nor earth nor boundless sea, but sad mortality o'ersways their power, how with this rage shall beauty hold a plea, whose action is no stronger than a flower? Oh, how shall summer's honey breath hold out against the wrackful siege of battering days, when rocks impregnable are not so stout, nor gates of steel so strong, but time decays? O fearful meditation, where alack shall time's best jewel from time's chest lie hid, or what strong hand can hold his swift foot back, or who his spoil of beauty can forbid? O none, unless this miracle have might, that in my black ink my love may still shine bright. I think it's nice when a sonnet is very short, and it's hard to get, I don't know, any form of narrative in such a short space without it being almost too simple. And I think when writing it almost as if they're just stanzas, I think it allows him to be a bit more lyrical, I guess. I really like these two as a pairing. I don't know if that's how he intended them. Again, it's debated, but
Yeah.
I think they work very nicely together.
Do you know if so he used a lot of he said a lot of his plays in ancient times.
Yeah.
And there's a couple theories about why he did this. Maybe he wanted to have different supernatural deities, so he thought, okay, well, I can use the Greek or Roman gods. Maybe he wanted, whatever. So there's like a Midsummer's Night Dream, for example, as ancient Greece. Is there examples of this in his sonnets? Like, do you get a sense of place and time, or is it more just a kind of a narrator in the void?
From my understanding of it, just personally, not anything I've read, it seems a lot less temporal. In
does.
general, I think it kind of goes a little bit towards people like Blake that we talked about, that were trying to make something that was kind of almost supernatural, beyond. I think he's trying to relay human experience, not in an impersonal way, but in an unspecific way. It feels like a lot of them are very personal, but they have no markers of place or person for the most part.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, and it's very different to his other poems and his plays, which I think is why they're so much more celebrated than the other poems he wrote, because they show another side of him.
Well, I think when something lacks setting, it can kind of increase the intimacy.
Definitely.
I mean, there are people that say the opposite. I mean, this is more in the realm of film, that you kind of need to have the whole environment to have a full emotional understanding of any relationship. But in the case of poetry, when there's kind of one perspective, so to speak, one narrator, if you kind of zoom in on the how would you put it, the kind of intricacies of someone's personal feelings, you kind of attain a lot of universality.
Definitely.
In it.
I think despite it being so old and so simplistic, it's so relatable, which is incredible, really, that these poems were written mostly 400 plus years ago.
And it can kind of shake off some of the... I mean, not that politicization of literature is always a bad thing, but it definitely shakes a lot of that off.
Definitely.
Because these days, obviously, Shakespeare, like Tom brought up with the Dark Lady, there's also... He's kind of used as like a political battleground, where you have more traditionalist interpreters and more kind of progressive interpreters, and there's this kind of... He can be like, the ground for basically culture war, whereas in these...
Definitely.
That political aspect is just not there at all, right?
Yeah.
And it makes them...
Yeah, there's people that whine and complain.
Yeah.
Oh, the character of Shylock in Merchant of Venice is a Jew.
Yeah.
And then, this shows that Shakespeare is anti-Semitic.
It's just... It's interesting that, unlike any other writer that I know of, almost everybody seems to think that he in some way was writing about their beliefs at this time. There's a lot of, like you say, people are imprinting their own ideas onto him later on, when, for the most part, again, we didn't really know his political beliefs.
It's kind of like the Bible.
Yeah.
Exactly like the Bible, actually. Yeah.
It's like so archetypal.
Yeah.
And it's like so central to the human experience that any human can be like, this is about me and what I believe.
Yeah.
Which I think is a sign of something that's
Yeah, sure.
kind of beyond legendary in terms of the
Yeah.
way it's written and
Yeah.
the way it's
Yeah.
perceived.
I
Yeah.
think
I think-
Slavoj Žižek says this about the interpretation, because there's like there are some people who would say that this is what Slavoj Žižek says. There are some people that would say that to understand literature, you need to know when it was made, and to understand Shakespeare, you need to know what Elizabethan London was like, and you have to know, the history, and you probably have to know a lot of classical history as well, because that it references that. But then the idea, Slavoj Žižek's idea, is that you really understand Shakespeare by comparing him to some arbitrary point in history. So you'd be like, you could say like, I don't know, the Qing dynasty, and you could just put him there. You could put those narratives there, and then the mark of greatness is that something would rise up in that correspondence.
It would still work.
Which you can't say of the majority of
I
narratives.
don't know if that really makes sense to me.
But this is
I think it's more that the narratives would work in different contexts.
Yeah.
is how I
Okay.
end up
Okay.
saying it.
Yeah.
I think
suppose.
in
quickly,
all contexts,
yeah.
presumably. I guess
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
ideal at least.
Yeah.
I think just to
Whether or
finish
not
it
it's met.
off before you advertise the next show, I
Yeah.
want to very quickly read the most famous sonnet.
Go on.
I think I've just about got time.
Go on.
All right. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Thank you very much.
There we are. That's
Well,
the end of Poetry Generator.
That's the end of Poetry Generator. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I have one last thing to say.
Yes.
I had one of our listeners texted me, who happens to be a scholar on St. George, and she said that the Red Cross Knight and the Fairy Queen is St. George, England's
That makes
patron
sense.
saint. So there you go.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Poetry Generator. Thank you for voting for us for Best Award. Next year, we're going to be doing a show about the biographies of famous and obscure peoples who've had interesting lives. It's going to be a biographical show. That's going to be appearing in October. Until then, enjoy your summer, read poetry, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.